Lights out. A vinyl spins in silence. Suddenly, the needle drops, and the war begins. The lyrics don't even last a full minute on air before a station pulls the song. The next day, there are headlines, protests, angry calls to the label. It wasn't a mistake. It was exactly what the artist intended: to provoke, to disturb, to break the mold. In the 1970s, 13 songs set off alarms in government offices, religious temples, and censorship boards. What seemed like just music became a battlefield. At first glance, Imagine sounds like an innocent ballad, but when John Lennon released it in 1971, it sparked an international scandal. The reason? That provocative line, "Imagine there's no heaven." For some, it was a call for peace. For others, a direct attack on religion and the established order. Conservative groups labeled it atheist, communist, and even dangerous. In countries like South Africa, it was banned from radio. In the United States, several religious groups tried to silence it, but Lennon never apologized. In fact, he admitted that his goal was to shake people's consciousness. Ironically, attempts to censor the song only made it more powerful. Imagine became a global anthem, sung at protests, funerals, and official events alike. Its gentle melody hides a bold message, and that's exactly what makes it so powerful. A revolution disguised as a song.
She told me it was my ding-a-ling-a-ling-o.
Catch me playing with my ding-a-ling.
When Chuck Berry released My Ding-a-Ling in 1972, no one expected that his biggest hit would also become his most controversial song. Full of double entendres and a shamelessly playful tone, the track was an instant hit and a nightmare for censors around the world. The lyrics, cheerfully talking about playing with his ding-a-ling, were accused of being vulgar, immature, and sexually suggestive, especially by conservative groups who demanded it be banned from radio. Some stations complied, others simply couldn't ignore the buzz. The song hit #1. Berry never apologized. He performed it live with a mischievous grin, clearly relishing the outrage. And while some see it as just a musical joke, others view it as a blemish on his legacy. With Street Fighting Man, the Rolling Stones made it clear they didn't just know how to rock, they knew how to ignite revolutions. Released during the political turmoil of the late 60s and early 70s, the song was seen as an open call to rebellion. With lines like "What can a poor boy do?" except to sing for a rock and roll band, the Stones captured the frustration of a generation fed up with authority. The backlash came quickly. Several radio stations in the United States banned the song, especially after the 1968 riots in Chicago, fearing it might spark further violence. But, as is often the case, censorship only made it more powerful. Street Fighting Man became an anthem for protesters, students, and anyone who wanted to raise their voice against the system.
Numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much any longer, 'cause you deep.
When Helen Reddy released I Am Woman in 1972, she lit a cultural powder keg. What many saw as an inspiring anthem of female strength, others interpreted as a direct threat to the status quo. It was powerful, unapologetic, and clear. I am strong. I am invincible. I am woman. The result? A full-on backlash. Several media outlets called it too feminist, and some radio stations refused to play it, claiming it might alienate male audiences. But Helen didn't back down. She said she wrote it because she couldn't find songs that spoke directly to women. And it worked. Despite the early resistance, the song became a rallying cry for the women's liberation movement and hit #1 on the charts. It even won a Grammy. Now here's the question. Does a woman declaring she's strong still make people uncomfortable? Or only those afraid of losing control? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Lou Reed didn't write songs to please. He wrote to shake things up. And with Walk on the Wild Side in 1972, he absolutely did. The song sounded smooth, almost hypnotic, but its lyrics were anything but subtle. Cross-dressing, sex work, drugs, marginalization, topics that were never mentioned on the radio, Reed sang about with calm defiance. Radio stations didn't know whether to be shocked or silent. Some chose silence, banning the song for lines like shaved her legs, and then he was a she, a direct reference to gender transition. At a time when that was considered a total taboo, Reed brought it center stage. What's remarkable is that instead of rejecting it, many people saw themselves reflected in that gallery of outsider characters. For them, the song was an act of validation and tenderness. When Loretta Lynn, an icon of traditional country, released The Pill in 1975, the shockwaves reached all the way to rural churches in the American South. A song about birth control, female sexual freedom, and forced motherhood, right in the heart of conservative culture. It was pure dynamite. The lyrics left no room for doubt. A woman fed up with unwanted pregnancies was celebrating the power to choose what happened to her body. For many, it was liberating. For others, a scandal of biblical proportions. Hundreds of country radio stations refused to play it, accusing the song of promoting promiscuity. Even within her own industry, Lynn was labeled immoral, but she never backed down. She said she was singing about what the women around her were living and what no one else dared to say out loud. And so, The Pill became an unexpected feminist anthem sung by wives, mothers, and grandmothers alike. Money wasn't just one of Pink Floyd's biggest hits, it was a sonic slap in the face to capitalism. From its iconic opening with cash registers and clinking coins, the song made it clear it wasn't here to celebrate wealth, but to expose its ugliest side. With lines like "Money, it's a crime," the band didn't pull any punches, and naturally, not everyone was pleased. In South Africa, under the apartheid regime, the song was banned for criticizing luxury and inequality. In the United States, some groups labeled it anti-American for daring to question the system, but none of that stopped its rise. It became one of the most iconic tracks on the dark side of the moon, and its message is still as relevant and as uncomfortable as ever. And you? Do you think criticizing money in a multi-million-dollar industry is hypocrisy? Let us know in the comments. When Love to Love You Baby dropped in 1975, some people put the record on and others just blushed. With her whispered vocals and explicit moans, Donna Summer turned a dance track into a cultural battleground. The song was an orgasm set to music. Literally, produced by Giorgio Moroder, the track broke every rule. While others sang about love, Donna made you feel it, and for many, that was far too provocative. Several radio stations banned it immediately, and in more than one country, it was deemed inappropriate for the general public. The result? A massive hit. The extended version ran over 16 minutes and became an anthem in nightclubs. Donna Summer was crowned the Queen of Disco, and sex stopped being a taboo, at least under strobe lights and shimmering beats. In 1977, the Sex Pistols didn't just release a song, they dropped a bomb. God Save the Queen wasn't just a critique of the system, it was a full-on declaration of war against the heart of the United Kingdom, launched right in the middle of Queen Elizabeth II's Jubilee. Coincidence? Not at all. With lines like "She ain't no human being," the band called the monarchy a useless farce. The backlash was immediate. The BBC banned the song, several shops refused to sell it, and some claimed the official charts were rigged to keep it from reaching #1. The peak came when the band performed the song on a boat outside Parliament, while the Queen celebrated nearby. There was chaos, arrests, and legend. Because despite the ban, or maybe because of it, "God Save the Queen" became the ultimate battle cry of British punk.
champagne and it tastes just like cherry. Most physical guy, but once you squeeze me tight, you never broke my spine.
In 1970, Lola seemed like a fun song about an unexpected night until you really listen. It tells the story of a young man who meets a charming person at a club, only to discover that Lola isn't exactly who he thought she was, a bombshell of a topic for the time. But the most surprising part? The initial censorship didn't come because of the song's gender theme. It was because of the word Coca-Cola. That's right, the BBC banned the song for mentioning a commercial brand. Ray Davies, frontman of the Kinks, had to fly from the US to London just to re-record the line, replacing Coca-Cola with Cherry Cola. Even then, the controversy didn't stop. The song approached something virtually unthinkable in the 70s: fluid gender identity, treated with surprising ease and humor. To some, it was scandalous. To others, revolutionary. At first listen, You're 16 sounds like an innocent pop tune about first love. But when Ringo Starr re-released it in 1973, red flags quickly went up. The issue? The lyrics describe a romantic relationship with a 16-year-old girl, sung by a man in his mid-30s. Though it was a cover of a 1960s song, by the 70s, with society becoming more aware of power dynamics and age gaps, the lyrics didn't go unnoticed. Critics and listeners began to ask, romantic or deeply inappropriate? Some radio stations chose not to play it, while others defended it as a product of a different time. Still, the song hit #1 in the United States, and Ringo never seemed particularly concerned by the controversy. Brown Sugar dropped in 1971 as a blast of infectious rhythm and raw energy. But behind that iconic riff lay something far darker. Lyrics touching on slavery, sexual violence, and interracial relationships, all delivered with a carefree swagger that bordered on the grotesque. Critics responded quickly. Some saw it as an irresponsible mockery of serious issues, while others argued it was a form of social commentary wrapped in irony. Even Mick Jagger later admitted he no longer felt comfortable with the song, saying that today, he probably wouldn't have written it at all. Despite the controversy, Brown Sugar became a massive hit and remained one of the band's most performed songs for decades, until the Stones themselves pulled it from their setlists in recent years. Do you think it's possible to separate the beat from the lyrics? Drop your thoughts in the comments. War didn't suggest, hint, or imply. It shouted. In 1970, Edwin Starr released this protest anthem with a devastating question: war, what is it good for? And he answered it without hesitation: absolutely nothing. At the height of the Vietnam War, that statement was like throwing gasoline on a fire. Conservative radio stations refused to play it, accusing Starr of being unpatriotic and subversive. Some media even labeled him a traitor for undermining the national spirit. But for millions of young people, it was exactly the opposite: a cry of truth, frustration, and hope. The song's raw energy, explosive rhythm, and Starr's furious voice turned it into a powerful symbol of the anti-war movement. War didn't just make the world dance, it made it think, and there you have it. 13 songs that didn't just define a generation, they shook the foundations of power, morality, and culture. Some spoke of pleasure, others of protest, and some simply dared to exist as they were. And that alone was enough for people to try and silence them. The truth is, 70s music wasn't just catchy, it was disruptive. It challenged, provoked, and broke rules. Every one of these songs was, in its own way, an act of rebellion. And maybe that's why, decades later, we're still talking about them. Do you think they deserved all that censorship? Or were they victims of a society that was too rigid? Do they shock you today or make you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this dive into the most controversial tracks of the 70s, hit like and leave a comment so YouTube's algorithm helps us reach more people like you. See you in the next video.